night sighting, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a little bit of history to kind of let you know what's going on. By this time, it's a year later, and I had been stealing my grandpa's car and hanging out with my buddies and going doing whatever we do at nighttime, okay?
Right.
And my grandpa was paying attention to the gas gauge and the mileage, and he pulled me aside and said, look, man, next time you steal my car, I'm not going to warn you. I'm just going to call the cops and I'm going to have to take you to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I needed to say it went in one ear and out the other.
That's what happens sometimes.
Right. So, this one particular night, I go to steal my grandpa's car, and he has these great big, they're not roll-up doors, they're sliding doors. They slide left to right. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So for me to open the doors, it'd take me like 10 minutes to slowly walk this thing open so he don't hear it jumble the house, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I get in the car, and this Buick he had at the time had a roaming short in the car. Sometimes the headlights would short out, sometimes the brake lights, cab lights, sometimes the radio would short out. And no bullshit, I put this thing in neutral, I put it in, I stick my foot out the door to kind of like skate along like a skateboard backwards out of the garage, and the damn horn shorted out.
Oh,
okay?
Man.
It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, so the horn started blowing, so I figured, well, I'm busted. He's going to call the cops, so I might as well go for the gusto.
Exactly.
So, right, I'm no use, no use putting up the flag of surrender now. So, I started the car, put it in reverse, I peel out of the driveway, I drop off my bottle, I pick up a friend of mine, and I tell him, I said, Dave, man, I said, look, man, the horn shorted out, we started laughing like crazy. I said, look, we got to stash the car. And at this time, it's late February, early March, same time, and I'm talking about a year later. If I could get my dad's paperwork, I could tell you down to almost a day later.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave's laughing. So we get in the car, and there's snow on the ground, so there's no way we could take the car off on a dirt road. So I'm thinking, man, where is I park this car? Where is I park this car? So I go over the bridge to the intersection where my dad saw the Bigfoot, and I take a left towards that grocery store.
Uh-huh.
I go down 1, 2 blocks, and I make a right, okay? I go up a block, and I make a left, and it takes me to this little subdivision they call Portola Heights. Well, there's only one cop on duty. He lives back there at the very end of this housing development. And at the very end of the road, as you come to the top of a little hill, you make a right, you go down and follow into his driveway to his house. If you make a left, it's in the old cul-de-sac where there's no houses.
Right.
Okay, so I make a left, and I pull into the cul-de-sac, and I face my car out, and I back up against this snowbank, right? So I know when he gets the call from dispatch, he's going to pull out of his house, he's going to go hit the town, look for me, and when he's done doing what he's doing, he's going to come pull into his driveway, and that's going to be my cue that it's all safe to go home.
Yeah, last place he's going to look is right there at his house.
Right, last place he's going to look is right up the street from his house, okay? So I'm sitting there, and we're listening to the radio, and the thing that kind of is funny to me about both the sightings, my dad remembers what song that he was listening to on the radio, or he was listening to the CD. He was at Eric Clapton from the Cradle album. And, like, the song's burned into his mind when he saw Bigfoot. And when I saw my Bigfoot, I was listening to Created Church to the Grapevine, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there tapping the brake, and I'm watching the brake lights like a dumb kid in the rearview mirror, watching the brake lights and tapping it to the beat of the Grapevine, right?
Right.
And Dave, he's just kind of like half slumped over in his chair, kind of just chilling, waiting out the night. And I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and I see something move, okay? And it catches my eye, so it catches my attention. So I look up, and it's approaching the vehicle almost in a hunch, okay? Now, the way the night was is there was snow on the ground and it had a bright moon.
Yeah, so that just lit everything up a lot more.
Exactly. I mean, like when you gaze off into the woods, you can see the trees. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, exactly. I know what you mean.
Right. You let your eyes get used to the darkness and whatnot. You can get yourself to the woods that night. Okay. Right. So it's in a hunch, and it doesn't really spark my attention until it stands up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when it stands up, the very first thing that I noticed was that it had no, I don't want to say neck tone, but it had no neck.
Right. It's like their headsets. Yeah, it's like their headsets directly onto their shoulders.
Right. And it went from head to shoulders. And the second thing, and as soon as I saw it, I'm getting goosebumps right now. As soon as I saw this, I knew what it was, because there's no way humanly possible anybody could have what I just seen. It had shoulders, Jimmy, that, I mean, bare minimum 4.5 feet wide.
Yeah, that's huge.
I mean, it looked like, just huge. It looked like, I mean, I was playing football. I mean, it made football pads look like shoulder pads on a girl's blouse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how big this, I mean, and I'm like, dang it, man, something's behind us. So I pop him on the shoulder, and when he turns around in the seat to look, almost simultaneously, Bigfoot turns his back to us and takes off to the left through the tree line, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we're watching him, and as he starts to go, I call them pecker poles, they're real small pine trees, okay?
Right.
And it's like he's guiding himself. The very first thing he does with his left hand, it's like he's guiding himself, he does it with his right hand, and almost like a zigzag pattern to the trees. Okay?
Right.
It spooked us so hard. I'm trying to hit the ignition, trying to turn, I can't, I'm jumbled. Dave, he's spun around in the seat, I go to pull my seatbelt on, at the same time I'm trying to turn the ignition, and that noise your seatbelt makes goes just like that, you know?
Right.
Hey, Dave jumped and hit his head on top of the car. He's so jumbled, he started pulling his seatbelt on. They started to hit the gas, and we were gone. We didn't care about jail. We didn't care about the cops. We didn't care about my granddad knowing.
Just getting out of there, yeah.
Just get the hell out of there, man. We're driving, and I'm in my hand shaking. And Dave, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm like, oh, my God, dude. So I get him back to his house, and he had to sneak out of his house. And I pulled into the alley, and he was too scared to get out of the car to go to the window of his alley. I had to walk him to his window and help him get in the window, and he just sat there, looked at me inside the house, and it was just speechless.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, it really does rattle your cage when you see it.
Yeah, because I mean, growing up, what we think is what we know. There's nothing out there other than what we've always known. And then when we see something different like this, it just throws us for a loop.
Yeah, it's so foreign to your eye.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's so foreign to your eye that it just takes you back, and then when you see the speed and the gracefulness of it, like, I mean, it really puts into perspective how powerful and how intelligent this animal is.
Yeah, and the quickness. When you seen it run through the small pine trees, it probably, what I'm thinking, it probably grabbed some of the trees as it does, because I think they try to stay as close to the trees as possible, and I think that's kind of some of their evading techniques.
Well,
did it do that?
I'll tell you one thing that we noticed after we kind of started talking about it. Now, Dave's window was down about, I don't know, 2 to 3, maybe 4 inches, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this neighborhood that we were in, like I said, it's less than a mile from that dumpster I was telling you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's right there. But this neighborhood that we're in, everybody had dogs. The lady down the street had this great big German Shepherd, Great Dane. My uncle had German short hair. The cop down the street, he had bear hunting dogs. So there's dogs everywhere. Okay?
Right.
The whole neighborhood is full of dogs. And as me and Dave were bouncing this story off each other, I said, Dave, man, I says, I didn't hear any dogs barking that night, did you? He goes, no, I didn't hear one dog barking. So, I mean, and that to us is odd,
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not kidding you. In that neighborhood, every house got a dog, and there's at least 30 houses there.
Yeah, these dogs know that that's something that they don't need to mess with.
Right.
They just instinctively know that's a bad day when they face those.
It's just like that Rottweiler story I told you.
Exactly.
I mean, that dog was mean, and there was nothing with 4 legs on the earth that he wouldn't fight. Mm-hmm. And when I came back to that truck, he was scared. So yeah, they know the shit. They know not to mess with it, you know.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I don't want to interrupt you if you're finished with your story.
Well, I mean that's the details of the story. And I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I was trying to estimate how actually close the Bigfoot was to the car, and I would say he was within 20 to 25 feet of the back of the car.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I'm wondering if they were curious and hearing the music playing, because you said the window was down a little bit and maybe heard the music playing.
Yeah, we attributed it to the red lights, from the brake lights.
Probably just piqued the curiosity.
Right, like that's what I thought piqued his attention. We never even thought about the music, but that could very well be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was obviously en route down to that grocery store to get something to eat.
Right. So it could have been heading that way.
Right. I wish I could draw you out a map of the area, because that back to that subdivision is the furthest part of that town right there. There's no houses to go to the next town. And the next town, like out of Grove Slides, is 40 miles through the woods. Mm-hmm. There's caves. There's all kinds of rock outcroppings. Like, it's as rugged as it gets. Yeah,
perfect habitat for them. Yeah.
Oh, perfect habitat for them. All kinds of little lakes, streams, creeks. Like, I mean, you can beat the habitat out there, and like, it's thick country.
Have you had any other sightings other than that?
No, I never had any other sightings. That's been my only sighting. And I told you about some of the other things that I couldn't explain in the woods. But as far as any other sightings, no, that was it.